We can go ahead and go live for a little bit. Start going live. Alright, and we should be connected. We'll give it a quick count in. Yep. So, welcome back to Bug-Free Productions. If you remember last Saturday, we started off with I was just inking kind of over this drawing. I did a resketch over top of a image that I'll find. It was book page 1, which is just this image. Here we go. Windows Photo, not used to using this application at all. Which I guess is also right underneath the thing. If I turned up the opacity on that, or just turn the visibility on. So we have this here, which is cool. That's pretty cool. Why did the sketch come on red? Did I not? Must be something with the... Interesting. Must be something to do with maybe I colorized this one and not this one and it passes down or something. Not fully certain. But that's interesting because it doesn't turn the ink layer red either, but oh well. At any rate, not important for today. So I figured Saturdays would be a good day to just kind of take a break from coding, at least for video wise. I'll probably still do some afterwards anyway, but for right now we'll just take a break for that kind of stream, and we'll look at our other stuff, which is going to be mostly concept stuff today. So I'll just finish up here a little bit while people, in case somebody comes in, and we'll just finish this guy up. I don't want that one, come on. There we go, I think. Yeah. Okay. And this isn't the best, but I still gotta get used to. How dare you ask me if I want assistance, computer. Drawing on the book page layer, I want the ink layer. So we're gonna go whoop. If you're just learning, you can stabilize yourself on something right next to it, but once you get kind of used to, god dang it. Once you get kind of used to it, it usually ceases being useful to stabilize and just, especially when you can just turn stabilization on. I'm not going to do a super amazing job on this, being that I think this is the first one I've actually inked in InDesigner for a couple months again. When I started this, I was a little out of practice, so there's going to be some practice involved in some things I show on this channel, just because it's the same reason I was saying GitHub was so important. It's because then you can split up the work and actually collaborate at the same time rather than trying to do it in stages. Especially in game design, because usually you want a rapid prototype, or at least whoever's paying for the game wants a rapid prototype. Usually, which is good and bad, because if you put a rapid prototype together, sometimes just prototyping it takes a lot of time, and showing progress can be, if your check-ins are too close together, can be a problem, because then you're looking at it and you're like looking for the next check-in deadline and you're not focusing on making the whole thing good and accurately representing what you're trying to do. But if your check-ins are too far apart, then you don't do any completion type stuff, or not that. If you don't do rapid prototyping, it helps you determine what your gameplay loop you want is. But and it helps you identify if you want to pursue that type of game, but it doesn't. Rapidly doing everything is not a great idea because then you usually end up, going too fast and not being willing to slow down and fix certain things because deadlines are coming up because your check-ins are really close together. So you gotta kind of find that middle ground. One of my favorites for one really cool quote from one of the Sony developers worked on God of War 2. He was talking, they made him business, in charge of business decisions and art direction. And he said, we can't make money this way. Because instead of making decisions that were good for gameplay or good for the game, he was always making money decisions. So he was just like, what's the cheapest way we can do this? And then the game got worse, and then he had to come back and get creative and tell someone to problem solve it and get things fixed, and that's not it's not a constructive way to make things. You need to have that money idea, but you also need to not be checking in all the time and allow people time to make things because you don't want that to ever be a problem. It's like, can I make things? Because it costs time, and that isn't acceptable for some people. And it's like, well, you know, if you don't make anything worth selling, it doesn't help your income either. Um, that's where I kind of have a little bit of a problem as a programmer. It's like I do spend all this time on it, making it more flexible and stuff, and it's like, well, if this does well, we want to be able to recycle the code and we want to be able to make the game better, extend it, make it stronger. You can't do that if you spend the bare minimum amount of time on it. But if you don't make money on it, you can't come back and make that second thing anyway, because the money won't be there. Did this make sense? Hand-wise? This hand is what I'm talking about. You know what? It's gonna be zoomed out. I'm gonna imply that line. I don't really like how I did it, but I like working on it. I like overworking it less. Yeah. People were talking about, heard on Drawfee, they talked how the skill set of talking while drawing is very difficult. I'm like, yeah, it sounds like it would be. And now I'm doing it and I'm like, it's worse than I thought it was. So much harder. But I thought I'd be good with it because I would just, you're always joking around with your friends once in a while when you're drawing and stuff. And you're like, I'm sure I can do that. And then all of a sudden there's nobody talking to you like, auditorially all the time. And you're like, wow, it is hard to fill. Fill the audio. So we just got this. probably pretty soon we'll go work on that other thing. Go work on some, open a new canvas and do some concept stuff. All right, here we need a line. We can quit shaking from coffee. Nope. There we go. I could use the pen line and snap it, but nah. We're just so fun in that. The heck is going on here? Make line. I'll probably come over with a thicker brush and do that. And since I'm just doing this as a fun little comic, I'm not really going to get too concerned about are my things perfect? Like, are my lines perfect? Are they super continuous? What's the quality of my lines? That looks pretty good. Yeah, that looks decent. The hardest part about trying to make smooth lines on screen is that I bought a small canvas. That and I don't have a lot of muscle memory when it comes to digital. In my design classes, pretty much most of it was all done in Illustrator, which some of it I dipped out and did Procreate and Affinity towards the end, because I was just like, nah. Adobe is industry standard for a reason, but because they're industry standard, sometimes they quit trying. That was definitely true when I started looking at some of the functions like Affinity had. Like I said, I think this is my favorite part about Affinity is the just simply the bar up here. Between that and how the different transforms and stuffs are applied, it's pretty good. The only thing that took me a little longer to get used to is it's probably just because I liked the way Illustrator was laid out for the most part. Adobe Illustrator, at least in terms of like how they handled geometry, I really liked. I thought that made a lot of sense, but Affinity handles it in a slightly different way. It's not bad. It's just not what I was used to, and I already really liked that one, so I kind of like looked for that first, which was kind of a problem. But it's still really simple in there. It just took me my dumb brain to remember we're not in Photos in Illustrator anymore. We're not in Kansas, we're in Nebraska. So, just keep going along. I think I'm going to make that top line there. And then this is like the head coming out, right? So, let's maybe erase this line, back that off. brush on it, and 'cause that's where we want our eyes. Let's just leave the face out of it, because I don't think you would honestly be able to see much detail in the face by the time I zoom out, right? So let's try it without it first. You can kind of learn a lot from of where the art comes from if you look at the way they people do eyes. So mine pretty much come from like a simplified. I combine a little bit of some simpler anime type stuff that I've seen with a bit with more of a cartoony style. I think it looks kind of nice. You definitely can't see more like what the eye is doing, so it'd probably be like something just soft and simple that's barely legible, because we're looking at it like generally about that's about how big it would be on a page. That's plenty detail level. So then we pull down her, because the neck would come right about here. We want to thin it up just because it looks a bit blocky if I do that. Whoops. I just really simplified that hand. I don't like to make things too complicated because then they tend to become problematic. Actually, so this is kind of the back, so remember that toast shape is right about there. Then we go, so we should follow that line, bring it in, and then come back down. Maybe I'll just leave my lines a little sketchy. I get to be a bit of a perfectionist. That's maybe why I program and code so much. It's like, hey, look, it's clean, it does a thing, we're done. And that's great in that, but I don't like my drawings to have a very AI feel to them, and by that I mean AI doesn't take very long to super render out something, but a person does. So I'm not going for super realism anyway, is what I'm trying to say. I'm not going for super realistic. I want it to look like I put lines on a piece of paper. I love the sketchy look. I just want that. Not super realistic, just hinting, communicating, and being kind of a draw. If I need more brushes, I'd probably do this next part in screen tone brush. Just do it strictly in a screen tone, but since I like the sketchy style anyway, I'll probably just do this. And we need to I only did that one line to kind of separate it. We're just going to keep going and going and going and going. There's that. Just because I think it looks, yeah. Number one, I don't want to actually draw the head in, because that's not what it's about. It's about something is looking at what she's doing. Or someone. We don't necessarily need to know who at the moment that this panel is going on. So, as an image, hopefully this gets an idea going. And then over here we actually introduce our character. And this is just kind of a one-off character. He doesn't actually come back. Neither does my brush, apparently, because I have it set to eraser. Now we can do a little bit better job of a hat. And we might even do something like that. I'm not into using a bunch of lines, so here we go. Nope, that's wrong. Yeah. And if you're looking for a new way to make head shapes, I usually just look up like what my favorite animation or whatever is at the time. Zoom in on this because I'm having trouble with this line angle. Because his eyes are going to come in like this. And out like that. His eyes aren't going to really have an expression because he's kind of just seeing that this is going on. Just keep them nice and round. Nose, just a hint because I can't really fit a whole lot of information in this small of an image. He's not happy, he's just kind of not sure why there's two circuses in town. That's it, I think. And have I given any of these characters ears? Not on this one. On the silhouette, I'm not going to bother really, but over here, usually want to do it right in line with the maybe that's just not, yeah, there's not enough room for more information there. Take an eraser quick and go blip, 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 blip. Reason I erased that line, doing females, I usually use the shorthand of making that chin, jaw slider. Just meaning where a man's would kind of come down more. We slope that nicer to indicate female character. Kind of like I did up here, it kind of goes back into the ear rather than down from the ear. I can control my canvas. This one's not all that great. Some of that's because the neckline's in there. You can clean that up a little bit though. Nope, didn't do that. Make your look a little pudgy there. This is where you have to get used to drawing digitally, or you can't really do this type of thing because it's just too it's a different angle. My shoulder's already straining a little bit. There's tools I could use like rotate canvas, but I'm not going to. I'm a stubborn person. Okay. What is it? 26 after? Alright, I'm just gonna keep using these comics as a warm-up. Kind of go over some things in comics with it, at least what I'm practicing and using right now. So what do we want to do then? Next one I'll probably move on to something more like concept-y. So let's go ahead and save this. Nope, not copy. Save that. I'll do a file. What's in OBS? Can I turn this? Document's not open. Unity's not open. Just gonna black the screen real quick. I'm gonna go file new just in case it shows me wants to show off my nice little file path, which doesn't look like it does. So I'm just gonna need a new 1080 canvas. FHD 1080p. That's long though. We have print, we have press ready, we have photo, we have web and full HD. Why is my full HD 1080 freaking tall? That's weird. Okay. 180, 1080, 1080. 1920. So we have 1920 by 1080. Color mode would be RGB. Margins, no margins. Margins on that don't make any sense. Let's save preset as landscape. Print category and web. Full HD 1080p landscape. Okay. Perfect. Create. I'll turn my thing back on. So I should illustrate a start screen at some point. Probably. Which would be really nice. But until that day, I'm gonna go ahead and continue here. So concept art, what is my thing for concept? I'm gonna get a really thin brush. So B. And we get a brush. And then probably just adjust this down to like less 16 pixels. That's still kind of big. Let's get a section of the screen. So what would I do here? Usually in in my sketchbook, I just kind of plot out circles, like plot and plot and plot and plot. Let's start with that, maybe. So concept character, I'm actually gonna walk that back. Concept character, I usually just start with a basic thing, like what am I gonna do? Okay, so what's my main idea? So let's say I'm starting with a scene, so if I want a scene, right? What do we want in that scene, maybe? So who slash what am I making the scene for? Let's think in game design for a little bit. If I'm doing concept art for a scene, meaning world setting, something like that, how would I design a scene or illustrate concept art for a scene, stuff like that? Okay, so if I was going to do that, we'd start with the genre. So we have our racer, right? Over on the game channel. So if you're following, or game part of the channel. So if you're following along with that playlist slash coming into streams, you have this kind of game, a racer. We start with ideas about what that is. So very similar to like when we were setting up design layout for our programming, establishing what things we need to get done for which parts of the game to create our core loop and our functions. Much like that, we have to think about what our core functions of the game are and how they apply to our design and our concept art. So, what's our function? Constant acceleration. Constant accel. Because the racer accelerates constantly. Okay. You know it's going to be fast. Not something. Something I would make sure to allow in code, but not something I would focus on particularly in code. Is the speed. I would allow that to be used by the designer. So fast is something we have, but fast is something we have to consider in our art. And why do we have to consider that? Because this doesn't make you feel fast. This makes you feel fast. So if you're accelerating, the amount of objects you pass might create a feeling of going faster, and farther spaced out objects might make you feel like you're being less speedy. And to that point, it might not be the objects out here. It might be the road itself. So, like your painted lines might be closer together. And if you stick them out farther away, it might be for a different gameplay reason. Like maybe here's the line where you want to turn, this is the starting line, stuff like that. But further apart they are, even if you're moving pretty fast, it'll feel like you're going slower because you're not passing those markers. Um, Same thing if you ever noticed, sometimes they put those little squares, those little yellow squares out, and sometimes they're not always that close together before they paint a road. So when they're not all that close together, it feels like you're going a little bit slower, but if they're really close together, you feel like you're going fast. It looks like you're going faster, even though you might not necessarily feel it from other feedback, such as the shake rumbling, the vibration of the gas pedal, that sort of thing. But it'll look like you're going faster to you. So if you want the player to be feeling faster, you might want to put something that's really close together that they'll be passing over really quickly. It'll just help add that effect. And then there's vignetting, which we'll probably cover in post-processing, but you might want to keep in mind that you're going to vignette if that's something you want to do. There's other ways to make it feel like you're going faster, not vignetting, but then you would just want to keep in mind, I don't actually work in the whole part of the screen. I work in the part that's not vignetted. At least for core stuff, like if I was going to design a HUD, I wouldn't want it getting hazy. I'd want the HUD to remain clear at all times, regardless of if I have a vignette effect around my rest of the screen. So we might do vignette. There's other cheats that we can do around to get around UI and stuff being hazy and whatnot, but let's focus on our other parts of design. Okay, so with the free asset, so let's go down here. So what else are we doing? So we're doing free assets, right? So we need an art style that goes with our acquired assets. And if we have to go with our acquired assets, what are our acquired assets looking like? It's a bot. It's one robot. How would I describe him? I'd say it's kind of a junk rust style robot, like kind of a scrappy style robot, so maybe. So maybe we start to hone in on this after, but okay, so we need So let's get some description of what we might want to do then. So we want it to be fast, so we need to keep in mind fast. Probably want to keep in mind to use Rust when we can. Scrap. Then what? So we got fast, Rust, scrap. So we just want to make sure certain objects are close together so that we do that. We want rust and scrap pieces. Lots of metal. And if we got lots of metal, so we're basically going for a junkyard type aesthetic at this point, right? We're racing through a junkyard is the thing. Which I think there's actually a free asset for that. But it's always best to just design your own track. So even if you get free assets, it's best to make a memorable track loop and add some elements. So what we'll do here is, oh, and then we have the UI, which isn't always like a menu system, okay? Sometimes it is a light up dome on a track, or a little character sprite. So we have that, which we'll actually cover later when Grady will be back on one of the streams to do some Blender. So we'll actually cover that stuff later in a coding / programming part of it, game design specifically. And then what I'll do with that, so that would be an idea that we're gonna do, that we do for the for that tutorial. I'm gonna work on something a little different. And I'm actually gonna open a new application for this. So I'm gonna open the Affinity Designer 2. And while that opens, I'm just looking at, we'll move on to, or maybe I can't decide if I want to or if I don't want to use design or if I want to use photo, because I need to make regular shapes and they'd be really easy to animate, create in design, but some of the render effects might not be great in, or might be harder to do anyways in the designer. But maybe we'll try it and we'll see how it goes. So, come on. Fight with the screen. Okay. So this is Designer. Designer 2. This is a vector drawing program, vector illustration. So it's comparable to Adobe Illustrator. Doesn't have some of the 3D doesn't have the 3D features, I don't think, but I'm not using Adobe Illustrator or Adobe Suite stuff for 3D. It's just, I don't want that stuff to be incompatible or specialized at all, because that tends to cause problems. I just want standard FBX files whenever I do 3D stuff, or get 3D stuff, or sometimes some Blender files, or some OpenObject files that really aren't important right now, but I'd still prefer to do that over the other thing. So we have Artboard tool, we have Node tool, Contour, Corner. Don't remember how to just create a shape. Because I haven't really done any shape creation in here, it's mostly been editing so far. Let's see. There's got to be a, whoops, pencil, pen, huh. Oh well, anyway, some of this stuff I still have to look up because I haven't used certain things. So Affinity Shape Tool. Affinity Shape Builder. Context Toolbar. Yeah, it's weird how we have to remember so many commands and stuff. Shape builder tool. Drag marquee objects you want to include. Like I said, this is where I gotten a little too used to Illustrator. I'm just like, okay, I would just go over here, select a circle, and go, boom, object down. But in this one, it's under something different. And it's not quite obvious what that is to me. I don't want an artboard node tool. That's not what I want either. Drag method. Maybe I'll have to look at this off stream. This is not straightforward to me. Is this it? Wireframe mode. They do have things up here that are export personas and stuff, but huh. Well, I guess I'll skip this. There was a shape tool up here that was really easy to find, wasn't there? Okay, forget it. I'll have to take 10-20 minutes off stream to do that. It's not straightforward in any way, so I wish I didn't have my other thing closed. Any rate, let's just focus on doing some sketching then here. We're gonna just do concept sketches instead of some other stuff here. Well, so for the tutorial I'm doing like a rustic place and stuff. So what do I want for that? That'd be something like sheet metal. We'd want sheet metal jumps. So something with just some cutoff pipe maybe. So we have brush. Oh, come on. Why don't I have... What happened here? Is it because there's no layer on? So that layer selected. Okay. This will happen to you quite often when you first start. Okay, something like that. There we go. Alright, now let's hide it. Let's create a new layer, new pixel layer. And this is where we'll just start sketching. I was going to show something else, but they're not, it's going to be more work than I can do immediately. So let's go back to our sketching. We got yeah. Yeah, currently there's just not a lot of prep time for some of these streams, so I'm just like, I kind of need to do stuff when I need to do it live, but I also need, you know, the program doesn't have something easy to find, that really just kind of kills it, because I don't have time to go back and check stuff quite often. At least not at current point. So we got this thick line, then it's probably like corrugated metal, so that would be like a jump, because I want jumps in this game. So just thinking kind of like that. Then we'd have, let's think like a side view. Concept art doesn't have to be super, super impressive. It's kind of just to get the idea in there. Sometimes it's even literally, I've seen stick people like, what was it? No, it's something like, and vision cone, stuff like that. Character concept art is where it starts getting a little more fleshed out and stuff, but when you're just thinking really abstract, like in terms of placement and stuff, like a nice little grid is fun. So like we're designing the track, and say it comes up to, we'll use that line for fun right now. And it comes down, around, and it comes straight, right? And we're just kind of mapping out. This is also concept art. And there's the finish line. So there's a lot of different kinds of concept art. There's stuff we use for level design. There's stuff we use for character concepts, which are more detailed usually, but still pretty rough quite often, until we get to the part where we start finishing it up and polishing it. So this is a concept of what we're going for the track. Doing a sketch of anything we might need. So one of the things we might want is, like, say, let's design a lamppost, right? It's going to be just a standard lamppost, right? So we come out and we do this. Something like that. And you can probably get a lamppost asset. But even with the lamppost asset, we might want to do some other stuff to it. So even if we have a lamppost asset, we might say we want to do some artwork from it, or do some custom skins or something with it. So we might want to go, maybe we say there's like a little patch where we put some screws in to hold the plate up so that water didn't get in, because it's old and it breaks. We might have one back here. And then instead of screws in it, we could put screws here, right? Then we could also put something really dumb like like a curved piece of metal. And why do I say that's kind of dumb? Because nobody would actually fix it that way. We're just making it look more rusty. And then maybe that guy would actually be a little bit more Maybe it'd be something like rebar, which that notation makes it look a little bit like rope. So maybe we hatch the other way. So maybe it's like a wrapped piece of rebar. It's just wrapped around there for some reason. Not everything in art has to necessarily make sense. It just has to necessarily look like it belongs there. Maybe we add some welds with some splatter, because this has been welded on a few times. Re-welded by someone who doesn't know how to weld. Because a good weld should look like effectively. Probably looks a bit more like something like that. Good weld anyway. That one not so much. It probably looks like a pile of metal on top of itself in a puddle with some runners coming off if they don't know how to weld. So could add some broken glass to ones that don't work, or to the ones that do work, maybe some fractures. Where it's just cracked, but it doesn't necessarily allow oxygen through, so the bulb don't burn out. Which the bulbs might have another layer inside there to protect them. I'm not certain, but this we get the idea across. So you just make it look kind of rusty, kind of scrapped together, stuff like that. Do the same thing with the walls, maybe. So, first of all, I probably wouldn't put a house that looks well constructed in it. So that means no pitched roofs. I'd probably go flat top or slant top. Combining the two is probably pretty fun. So we have, say we have a flat top roof, flat top roof, and this is the road. So there's the road. We think about it, and then we have maybe like a lean-to here. And since it comes towards the road, we'd probably see it look like something like this. So then it would come down, goes closer. Kind of using this as like a generic vanishing point. I just don't want to think about it, but I want to make it look like I'm kind of thinking about it, so I can get some concepts down without necessarily taking up a bunch of freaking time. So I use a lot of shorthand and a lot of this is probably corrugated steel. If you've ever seen like shed siding, it's kind of rippled, so use that kind of idea. Gonna use a lot of reclaimed metal. So we got, then there's probably a door here. There's probably no doorknob on that. It's probably something really simple. It's probably just like a pull handle. There's probably not even a lock on it or anything, right? It just pulls open, pulls shut, and then you bar it shut when you're inside. And we can just think conceptually how we want the houses together. Is it like a few people that live here and build their stuff on a scrap? Is it a tight place where everybody has to live really close to each other? They don't necessarily have room, so the houses are just scrapped right next to each other. Which is probably going to make you feel like you're going faster because the houses, large structures, conceptually, will be right next to each other. Right? The closer they are together, the faster you pass all of them, and the more distance it seems like you're covering, which is also good. And then if there's a turn, so this goes and goes and goes and goes, and then turn, do your houses curve around that track? Or is there places where they stop? So like if you have it go through a dump track, right? And then it goes to a jump or a bridge, and it goes into more like maybe scrap sorting or something where you have some fun elements like or maybe you have some fun elements like say a crane, one of those dump magnets. I don't really know what one of these looks like, so I just really quick shorthand it. That's what research another time is for. This is for thinking out what we could possibly do. So tracks. Right? Tracks. Whoop. Okay. But anyway. Yeah, because we can research this later and make sure it makes sense and all that stuff. But sometimes sometimes research comes first, sometimes ideas come first. I'm an ideas first person and then look up what I want to find, like what I want to use for reference. Uh, yeah. When I went for my design certificate, they wanted the process they taught was highly law reference up front and ideas. What most of them taught, I should say, was a law reference up front, curating an idea. And then there was another one. It was a bit more cyclical, where you went and did one, and then you come back and revisit it, then you go do it again. I guess none of them were really. It wasn't really graded in the point where like you had to go do this in order, except for the first run. But it was just like like this is where you start and then you go. Is with reference. Is you start with reference and to get ideas. I find in game design that's true. Still not sure because I don't. It's hard with mechanics, right? Because if your art follows your mechanics, then you need the mechanics in place before you start looking for really artistic stuff. So take Horizon Zero Dawn for instance, right? You could make a big, and it's mostly this plate that brings it to mind. This guy's given me real Horizon energy. But all that aside, this is a really bad one, but you can kind of see what I'm talking about right now. The tall neck in Horizon Zero Dawn. Did that come from? So like the design comes from like dinosaur or giraffe, something with a really long neck. It's really tall. Design comes from like satellites and other types of transmitters, because it does look like a huge satellite tower. That's cool, but it's just kind of one of those things. Like, which one do you think came first? Do you think they did all these um, from reference for? Like, obviously they used reference when they started modeling and stuff, but this was probably modeled. It was done from reference, but it was done from reference with an idea to fit the mechanic, right? Um, Meaning they wanted something. A lot of the game is built around climbing. They want something you could climb. They want something that updated your map. Okay, so it should be a climbing point, a tall point that has a radio center. So all that stuff, all that fits the mechanic. The idea fits the mechanic. And then they probably went into the animal. All right. So then comes the art, and then comes and then they fit that idea with because they were already doing animals and stuff for Horizon Zero Dawn, animals and dinosaurs, and making them cybernetic. So then comes the aesthetic. So it comes like that. It comes like the mechanic idea. Then we have the aesthetic, and then we have the animals and stuff we want. Um, so we reference that, match that with the aesthetic to fit the mechanic. At least that's how my brain would approach it. Because I wouldn't look at. It's a pretty big creature for it to just be, hey, we made this really cool thing that matches the aesthetic. Can we use it for a mechanic? That wouldn't make any sense. Because you don't want to make assets that you don't have an intention to use. So you would develop the mechanic. Develop the mechanic. You would decide on you would match, come up with a concept to match the aesthetic and use that mechanic. And then you would develop the art essentially. Which is how that's why I kind of approach my game development in the mechanics sense first. So I start out all my mechanics. Once I get kind of at least partway solid on the core game loop, I start moving towards the, polishing it up, making the mechanics run a little nicer. And then I start pulling art in and start attaching it to made art objects. So like our 3D models and everything, making it ready to attach to those. Start pulling those in, or even just start, commissioning those, whether that be in the sense of just asking a friend to make an asset, or start developing assets, start creating them. I get my asset list once I start getting that core game loop down of what I'm going to need to make that aesthetic happen in a way that fits my mechanic game loop and concept. just a little bit about that. It looks so dumb, but I think a stuffed animal of a of a tall neck or some model would be. I'm sure they have them, but it's not. It looks like it would be really cool just to have sit on your desk, doesn't it? You imagine if it was a Wi-Fi router or a Wi-Fi receiver? I think that would sell. That would be really cool, actually. Well, tall neck Wi-Fi adapter sitting on your desk would be awesome. Any case, let's head back on over to the other thing. So we have a magnet. Maybe we want to pick up players and move them from one place to the other. Or just have this as scenery. It's moving junk around, just like picking up stuff in the background, moving it to another pile and dropping it. Maybe it's picking up crap in a pile off camera. That's kind of cool. Maybe it's picking up content protected models that look bad. So like you make a knockoff tall neck that's obviously not a tall neck, but obviously wanted to look like a tall neck. And it just drops it in the middle of the road. That'd be kind of cool. And the racers have to avoid that. That might be a cool mechanic. Yeah. And in design, you should always, like, designers should always feel comfortable suggesting ideas. It always sucks when you got content or art director and he's just like, no ideas, please. Because it's like, nobody can have all the ideas. That's part of the reason we have more than one person working on it. You kind of need more than one person on making ideas, and making the different things, and coming up with new ideas. Because, I mean, that's the idea that sounds really dumb. Dropping off, like, dropping knockoff trash on the road, right? But it's something interesting that's not going to be in every game. And if you pitch it right with a decent enough concept art, like maybe you make these really like scrappy, like these are made out of junkyard scraps or something. Just make this really nice. If you make this really nice and it looks well thought out, it might not be like it might be received a little bit better than my terrible black and white drawing here. Which I might think about doing something like that. Because again, I'm doing the tutorial for the junkyard. And I'm also taking that same code and applying it in a different way to make a different game, which I also recommend you do. It gets you it shows that you know how the components fit and work together and change, interchange, and move around. And then it also shows that you can adapt code to different projects, and that sort of thing. Whereas if you're just watching and doing this for design stuff, it's like that's if you can just swap it out, it shows that you know how to make artwork that swaps in and replaces other types of assets, and shows that you can make assets to fit different types of genres. So if you look at like the bot in my racing video, for example, you might like even with this whole aesthetic, you might be like, I want to make a bot that fits this aesthetic, or make something that fits this aesthetic, but isn't necessarily a bot. Kind of changes the way it works, right? So maybe a concept from there would be, I want to make a 3D car, which God God bless or rest your soul. By the end of that, but pixel. So let's minimize that and let's add a new layer. So let's think what that would be quickly through. So let's do a quick sketch of that. So you have a box body, right? Da da da. And this one we probably need a sketch layer and this one we probably need a sketch layer and a finish layer, right? But essentially we're going to start with the box, we're going to start with the rectangle, and we're doing a little front foreshadowing because it's easier to show off and hit all the angles with that. Gonna need a wheel, that's not gonna be visible, but then we're gonna need like a, we're gonna need to maybe pull out big box by here, pull out big box by here, then we're gonna need a box, 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 box. Oh, and this actually goes back probably. Yeah, that'll go back. So it'd be something like that, and then you got guardrails, or hand rails, because I assume if you're making a junkyard racer, I kind of assume you could take a less conventional way, but I'd assume you'd have some bars, overhead rail bars. Oh, nope, that'd be going, that'd actually be here. Be something like that. Eraser. And get rid of that, get rid of that. Something like that. Maybe we bring this down. I can't really draw a car for much, but it's not as bad as it used to be off freehand. We're gonna do some cheap, dumb stuff here. So maybe it's like really dumb put together. We have like light bulbs that barely make sense because they're just ripped off something else and not necessarily made for it. You know, really dumb looking headlights. Something like that. Yeah, just making. And again, I don't make vehicles. I don't draw vehicles. I don't. Uh, it's gonna look rough. It's gonna look bad. You could probably even just specialize in making vehicles, like vehicles, mecha, robots, all that stuff. That's pretty niche. If I made a robot, it usually just ends up being a segmented person that looks like it has plates everywhere. Um, I have an example of when I tried to fuse some characters and make them more mecha, and they ended up a little bit chibi too, but it looked kind of nice. It was like some Star Wars stuff. I'll pull it up later. Maybe for next, yeah, maybe next Saturday or next stream even maybe. But it's yeah. sometimes it is just hard to do things that your brain just doesn't want to work in that way. So it's got to be something you can either have time to work on and practice, train your brain to do it, or you just need to accept that you need to go find somebody who can do it. Which is kind of where the asset store comes in. It's like if I can't make something and I can't get somebody to make it, and I have the budget to do it, I definitely go on and get it. If it's also if it really matches my aesthetic, I want to make the game with, I will just go get it as well because um, the nice thing about the asset store is it allows people to make assets that can be used in multiple games that look really nice and work really well. But uh, being that you don't want it kind of works really well because I can get stuff to work for games, but at the same time can get stuff and it'll be in multiple games, which kind of hurts me. Um, Also kind of helps them at the same point though, because I'm multiple people buying that game. It doesn't cost one person like a couple $100 to hire an artist to make a bunch of assets. It costs them a couple of $100 just to buy all the game assets they need. So it works out pretty nice that way. Um, it's just that your objects won't be 100% unique to your game, which isn't always a problem. I mean, a lot of people that buy assets don't actually use assets or ever publish a game. Um, for example, I haven't necessarily published a game yet. That's because a lot of the games I worked on were school projects, and just a lot of you can't make a fully functional, or you can make a fully functional game, but you can't make a fully sellable game that makes good money in a semester worth of time. It's just not going to happen. I know like Full Sail or something might require you to do that, but it's not realistic. Um, Kind of like I'm sure there's some animators who feel the same way about their like when they took animation classes. It's like we made some really cool stuff, but we couldn't like it's still not Disney because it's not the budget or the time. Regardless of if you have the talent or not, it's not the budget or the time that would allow you to make that thing that you really think should be sellable or whatever. Which honestly, I think is ridiculous that we have such a. I mean, it's cool that we make such great high end stuff. It's just I wish we'd. I haven't really bought that much high end stuff because I can't afford it anymore. Even Netflix is a little expensive and out of my price range right now. Just like, nope. Which means Disney's definitely out of my price range. And it's like, yeah, that's cool. It's cool they're still making stuff. I won't be able to watch it though. So I just kind of ignore it. It's the way most advertisements are though. They all want to sell something that most people can't afford or aren't even in the market for. Even if it's a targeted ad, it's usually not very targeted. It's like really dumb. Just trying to sell me my it's like it was trying to sell me some freaking service. Photoshop's a common one that keeps coming up for me because I watch a bunch of art YouTube and other stuff. And it's just like I don't get why you would even market this to me because I have an account with had an account with them for school and stuff. And as soon as school ended, I quit having it. Actually, before school ended, I quit having it Because as soon as it wasn't mandatory for some of the classes, I just totally dropped it. Like, I don't need to pay for this anymore. I think I actually got away from using it. No, I didn't quite get away from it that semester, but because I had to do some, still had to do some fixing on some other people's AI files and stuff. Yeah. For some reason, I don't know why, but people never get how to use file formats. Which I probably won't cover unless somebody actually requests it, because there's a lot of things to cover, and it's a very boring subject. I don't think anyone wants to sit here for even a half an hour and discuss file formats. But it's just irritating. Like, they'll make a new file format and just start using it, and they won't explain why it's supposed to be better or how it's supposed to be used. Microsoft is really good at this. Just tremendously experienced at it. If anybody remembers the WAV files, they're awesome because they didn't lose any audio information, but they were terrible on size, and then they put it on, I think Zune only allowed WAV files, which means you were either upscaling a really terrible MP3 recording into a WAV format, which took up more space, and then putting it on Zune, which had less space than an iPod. It would have been fine if they just allowed MP3s. And they might have eventually, they just didn't on the version I saw. It was wave only. And that was kind of irritating. I'm just like, why would you do that? That makes no sense. Especially because then I got that person's music all in WAV formats. I'm just like, I don't even have room for this on my laptop because it was freaking over 500 gigs or something of. Oh, what would it? It would have been 500. It would have been probably over 100 though. At that price, or price, meaning storage, I couldn't afford to have it on my laptop. Hard drives weren't that big on the ones I could afford at that point. Couldn't afford to put new ones in either because they didn't necessarily make them expandable at that time. So this doesn't look at all like a Jeep, but oh, come on. Well, we'll see. It says it's still going. So is it still up? Are we still? Yeah, it looks like it's still going. Okay. Gotta love Firefox's new thing where it's like crashing sometimes. I love it. I love that. At least the stream kept running on the back end though, so I guess there's that. But so this isn't really a Jeep, mostly because I can't draw a Jeep. I guess if I was gonna make something, I'd just draw over top of a Jeep. I just pull in a Jeep and then adjust some things, make it better. This is more like a toaster car. It's like a no, it's probably closer to something like a clothes iron. Clothes iron with some headlights. This whole thing makes no sense. But maybe something a little sillier like this is also what you'd want to do. Who knows? Because then you could just make it really platey looking. Like, oh, they didn't even bother making the body look very, like, intelligent. So you just have, like, some plates going. There we go. You just have some plates going different directions. Maybe one's corrugated and cut at a weird angle. Maybe this one's, like, bolted on. Maybe this one's ridiculously glued on top. Da 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 da. And sometimes you just make markings for yourself, and then you come back and put it together for concept art. So I would definitely go back and clean and do another layer over top of this, whatever this is. Or just take it into Blender if I like this shape, this really close iron like shape, and work on the thing once I get the final model figured out. I personally don't like this guy very much, so I probably wouldn't take him into anything. But that's just me. I'll share one thing I'm working on right now. I'm kind of working on a character design that's a little more sleepy, I guess is the goal. So if I'm doing a character design, I usually start with the character I'm most comfortable drawing. This isn't drawing for Jesus. Come on. Something like that. I'll usually start with the 3/4 drawing because that's pretty much what I draw in 24/7 when I'm practicing. Yeah. I pretty much draw this all the time when I start with character. It's a little big on this part of the canvas, but whatever. So I'll start with a concept, and then I'll kind of thinking that she has like this big hat now, and then it comes up into a witch's hat. And this is only slightly stolen from Little Witch Academia, this hat shape. So, it's okay. Because it's only slightly stolen. Then we have that. I'd probably pull the sketch down and do a separate thing and render it, I guess. But, her ears are normal ears. Her chin come down. I'm just going to leave it round at the end because that's looking fine. So I'd probably give one bean trick that I use even when I'm doing this is that you would try and create a difference this way because it helps with foreshortening. At least it helps me. So if we have that and then we go down, because she's just tired, so she's just droopy. Then we go down into the next one. And then hers is going to drop probably right here and come forward. We could probably hang your head forward. Something. This is just concept sketch, so it's more about getting all the pieces than it is necessarily having a great illustration. And then this one, so we kind of have this come out, we have this come out. So we got kind of a witch character. She's looking, I think, mostly looking female. So, the thing I usually focus on really hard is, so you have a circle, and the shorthand I learned from watching Jazza videos is, um, big circle, little circle, pretty manly, or at least what we think of as a masculine shape quite often. Um, and then circles of equal size help create that hourglass type shape. And then you can take that a step further and go bean. Which I learned from watching a lot of Drawfee. I can kind of give you that back shape plus that in order for expression. It just kind of helps you give that lean whenever you need a lean or a balance or anything. Just creates a more energetic shape. Yeah, a little more energetic shapes. And some better poses. I did a really cool illustration that was based on that just uses a bean body, which is really cool. And then the last one is to come on B. The last one was I learned also from watching Jockey, but specifically Karina's anatomy type classes. I kind of just get she does it a little bit faster and better than I do it, mostly because she's done it a lot more. Being an animator, she's probably very good at it by now. Also considering she went to an actual school for this. Which I went for design, which did not include illustration in any manner. You were free to use it, you just weren't required, and we didn't, at least in the classes I took, I didn't necessarily, I did that wrong. I didn't necessarily have any, like, even drawing classes, so we're just going to look at that a little bit. And then I like to come in like 3/4 here. She does a much better torso, but this is how I kinda, I actually don't do that. What is that? She naturally she got really good at doing the torsos. I really like that, but I couldn't visualize how that worked. So what I do is I usually pick where my shoulder's gonna go, and then I finish my torso. So I have like 3/4 a line here, which will serve as my back, and then this will come in. So, and this circle wasn't the right size at all. This is probably a bit more looking like a man hunching over because of the broader shoulders and stuff. Than I intended to, but all the same stuff's here. It's like, and then we go into this. It looks more flowy, more dynamic, more powerful as an illustration. And the next thing I started doing is if your characters are really athletic, do the 3/4. You go part way around the pelvis bowl. you go part way around the pelvis bowl, and then you lip out. And it looks a bit nicer. It gives the thigh gap without having to like calculate, I'm starting here, or I'm starting here. Just let it round out naturally. Looks really nice. Then there's some other stuff. Maybe I'll do this in a different stream and just do some. I was gonna do some character sketches in here originally, and then I thought, nah, let's do the shape, the little emoji. And then I wasn't thinking that I hadn't actually used the Affinity Illustrator tools yet. Something there. But yeah, so this is the one I'm trying to learn, trying to get a little bit better at it, trying to make some stuff. But for quick comics, I mostly just do beans and the double circle method. And then if I do like a spread or an action shot that's really like heavy on importance, I'll do one of these. Just because it looks cooler. If I do poster or any type of art that I'm gonna like use as a poster, or probably a game sketch, I would also like sketch for a character for a game. Probably also do it that way. In fact, I usually have. Yeah, I did some concept sketches and sent them to a buddy. Grady, if you watched the other PC assembly video, Grady was in it. He does some 3D modeling now. He started doing it after we worked on school project Battle Pops together, which is also still in development. Probably gonna get a delay because I just don't have enough time to program the tutorial, the side part of the tutorial, and the battle tops all at the same time. And AR is finicky. It really hates to function. It really hates to function at all. So and then let's just bring that up. So anyway, you can just see how much easier it is to do that. Or not necessarily easier, because I do struggle with it a little bit yet, but how much nicer that looks, how much more dynamic that looks than my little circle methods. So I'd probably use this. So like I said, I use this more for concept art. This style more for when I'm doing finished concept art. It's gonna go to somebody that makes the actual art. And then I do this when I'm just doing light thinking. Or light storyboarding, stuff like that. So what would we do with this one? Let's probably do a move. Let's probably shrink this a little bit. Move it back into here. And let's pull it up. I just want to figure out probably about where the legs would be. And that should be enough space. So we got brush. Let's turn my size down a bit again. There we go. Is it because it's rendering the whole screen? What's the deal with that? It's good enough. Trick I still like to do. I think I learned this watching Druffy draw classes. Well, less dramatic than that. Something like that. Come on. It's gotten a little slow. Maybe we go up here and get rid of designer. Maybe that'll help give us some RAM back. Is my that's what's causing problems? I think that's what causes problems. Yeah, it feels like it. I think that's my correction type thing. So I think on Photoshop it's called stabilize. Oh, let's turn stabilizer off and see if that helps. Let's put flow back to 100%. Yep, stabilizer's off and it's looking a bit better. Yeah, I don't recommend running. Huh. I might need a stronger computer to do this. I think yeah, I might have to start doing this from the laptop instead of the tower. Reason being my laptop's newer and it has a better graphics card in it. Yeah, I got a newer laptop because I had to still take it to the campus for I think it was no, I did take it a little bit for design. I had to get it for design and game development because the keyboard the keyboard on my other laptop broke. So then I just got a new laptop rather than trying to and left one as a desktop in the room. And then both laptops all of a sudden broke. So I brought my tower up. And now my tower is just like not quite fast enough to handle. It's not quite handling OBS Affinity while drawing. OBS and Affinity while drawing and streaming. So I'll probably start doing art streams and collab streams back from my laptop again, which is what we ran on when I was doing the install video. So we know it works with streaming. Come on. Yeah, so it has a limited time and then it's getting tired. It's getting real tired. So maybe we won't actually finish this this character sketch. But like I mentioned, I want her to look a little more tired, so I'm gonna put her in a Sleepy by hat. I had the recent idea of if anybody here is watching Konosuba, I think is how it's pronounced. I can't pronounce anything. Megumine's hat has like that little not quite a face on it. It's like a button thing with, then there's like decorative trim or something like that. So what's Sleepy Eyes? We can just put Z's in them for right now. So I thought, what if we made her like put a sleep mask that went around her head or something, and then she pulled it over top of her eyes. And this is one of those cases where it's an idea and I look at it and I hate it. I still like the long droopy hat though. Probably end in like a pom-pom. What else can we do? 10 minutes too. We got a hat. It's drawing it's still drawing crap down there. But yeah, this is not. What is this? Window mode, brushes. Rope mode, brushes dragged as though it's attached with a rope. Smooth, slow selections with sharp corners. Alright. I turned off stabilizer. I don't get why I don't. It's weird. Maybe it's because I'm not making solid enough contacts. Maybe I need to go slower? No. Yeah, so we'll start using the other laptop. That's not gonna work whatsoever. Something like that. Something like that. Don't like the position of that hand. But the position of that hand is there because of the arm. So let's go down this way maybe. Yeah, it's hating to draw. Alright, I think the computer's just saying we've done enough today. So let's go ahead and go back to the document. I will open the document, I guess. Document. So, as we were going over, if you're liking the videos or the streams, go ahead and drop in on the. Feel free to stop in 6 p.m. Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tuesdays are going to remain code day. Thursdays might switch out with something else. We're looking at maybe going on to going and doing Twitch on Thursdays, just to see if we can reach some more people and do some different kinds of things. Because it's just there are more things you can do on Twitch apparently there are more things you can do on Twitch than you can necessarily do on YouTube with some of the stuff. And 10 a.m. on Saturday is still gonna stay the art day. So that's still going to stay for the art. We'll probably pick up again with some concept sketches, and I'll sketch through some witch stuff when I'm on my other laptop with a little bit stronger graphics. So I'll have to reset my workspace here for a little bit to do that. Tuesday and Thursday. So Thursday we might, and that'll be posted on the channel. So don't worry when that moves. So Thursday. Yep. So 6 p.m. Tuesday and Thursday. Thursday's on Twitch. And then 10 a.m. we'll be back here for another art stream. Yeah. I think we're just gonna keep up with this. This looks pretty good. This feels pretty good. Just in order so I can do the programming that I need to talk over for Tuesdays, and also because we're kind of getting into the settings and some other stuff, and that's more complicated than simply throwing together some movement scripts and going over some movement ideas. And then Thursday gives us a break from both the games and the art, and we'll find that on Twitch. It'll either be on programming or a different topic. That won't start. There will be a post about it, but it might not start till next week. Moving to Twitch for Thursday. With that, if you're enjoying everything, please subscribe and like the videos or the streams. It's a little weird seeing it how YouTube does it, but so please remember to do that. And we'll see you next time on Tuesday for programming. All right. And that's just some notes for us that we went over earlier. All right, so have a good day, and we'll see you Tuesday.